Thank you very much, Ms. Cluck. Roll call.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Madiker?
Here.
Mr. Shi? Mrs. Peng?
Here.
Mrs. White?
Here.
Mr. Mohan Patel?
Present.
Mr. Burrell Patel?
Here.
Mr. Rivera?
Here.
Dr. Haydock?
Here.
Edison High School Representative Serena Ahmed?
Here.
J.P. Stevens High School Representative Vivian Lee?
Here.
10 present.
Thank you, Ms. Cluck. Opening statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Edison Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board of Education administrative offices. Copies of these notices were sent to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger on January 4, 2022. The public may participate at regular meetings in accordance with the bylaws and the applicable state regulations. Thank you so much, everyone. Saying hello to everybody here in person and everyone watching at home. A little bit of housekeeping tonight before we get going with our normal agenda. You'll see two individuals up here on the dais, which we're very, very excited to welcome here on our Board of Education, and that is the student representative, I guess to my right, to your left, Miss Serena Ahmed, and round of applause, sure. And to your right here is Miss Vivian Lee from J.P. Stevens. So, a bit of housekeeping, how we're going to have our student representatives with us. And we reserve the right to change this as we go along, but we're pretty sure this is how we're going to handle it. So they're going to be coming to our action meetings, which is always, the Tuesday meeting after the Thursday caucus meeting. And these students are actual members of this board. They're non-voting. However, they're expected to participate like a board member. Many districts before this year have had student reps, and the point of those student reps have been varied, from district to district, but the state of New Jersey has encouraged and actually mandated that we now have these student reps, and they're encouraging us to do it at a much more official level, if you will, than some districts have handled it in the past. They're actually expecting them to participate, to give us their insight, and to operate as though they are an elected official with us up here, which they are. They're elected within their schools, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we say hello to them later. And they're the presidents of their student councils at each school. So not only is this a terrific thing for them, and I hope that we can show you what it's like to be on our side of the table, but I hope that you can certainly go back to your fellow students, your classmates, but also the future students, those at the middle schools or the elementary schools on each side of town, and you can collect some data, collect some information for us, and bring it back to these meetings to really share with us what's going on in the schools. So with that said, they will each provide us a report, and that report will be done during board member comments, and they'll be the first board members to speak during board member comments. Okay? So that's the plan, and we'll see if it works out. So I appreciate everybody's patience on that. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to the public for comments on any resolutions, just resolutions only, public comment. Any resolution-based public comment? Okay. We'll now move to, I need a motion to approve the personnel report.
Motion.
Mr. Biro Patel, motion.
Second.
Ms. Madiger, second. Roll call, please.
Dr. Haydock?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Burrell Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Mohan Patel?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mr. Shi? Sorry, my apologies. Mrs. Madiker?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes, but I will abstain on number 19 and 20 due to conflict.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the Administrative Curriculum and Instruction Pupil Special Services Report?
Motion.
Ms. Madiger, motion. I have a second.
Second. Second.
Mr. Rivera, second. Roll call, please.
Dr. Haydock?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Burrell Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Mohan Patel?
Before I vote, I have a quick question on that, though.
Yeah, I was just going to remind the board, those attending the school board's convention will be abstaining on letter E under professional development. Thank you, Mr. Patel, for
Okay, so I'll
the reminder?
abstain on that one.
Yes,
E
thank you,
under
Mr. Biro
professional
Patel, and thank you, Mr. Mohan Patel. Was that your question?
That and another one. In
Okay.
regards to the policies, are any of these policies that are in here today different from any of the policies that we actually had voted on before? Other than the ones that should have been voted on, are there any additional policies that are included in this packet than what we voted on last time?
No. It's the second read from those policies that were the first read at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
And just to confirm, that's yes, and abstaining from letter E.
Only
Correct.
abstaining from yourself on letter E. Otherwise-
From
Yes.
yourself.
Only abstain ourselves.
Yes.
Correct?
You abstain on only yourself on letter E.
Correct.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Pang?
Yes, and abstain for myself on letter E.
Okay. Mrs. Madiker?
Yes.
And Mr. Schneider?
Yes, abstaining letter E under professional development
Motion is carried.
for myself. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the finance report?
Motion.
Mr.
Before-
Biro Patel, motion.
Board President?
Yes, Mr. Patel.
I would actually like to make a motion to exclude one of the provisions on that, on the report. Provision 12, which states that we discussed this, but in regards to the cooperative Edison Metuchen lacrosse program, I would like that removed from our finance report so we could vote on it without that being in there. The way I see it, it doesn't behoove us as a school district to have a lacrosse team taking in members from another township when we are lacking some members for ourselves from our schools, when there's students that want to participate in sports and they don't get a chance to because the teams are full. In this case, I feel we should provide the opportunity to our students first here in J.P. Stevens, second in Edison High School, before we go into another town and allow their students to come here and play in our programs. So for that matter alone, I would like to cross that out from our finance report.
Dr. Bragan, can I ask a question?
Hold on, so we have a motion on the floor to,
I'll second.
well, hold on a second. Are you saying you're going to, Mr. Rubin, so his motion is to table, are you looking to table this? Or you're just voting no on it?
I'm looking to table option 4 off of the whole finance report. The fourth option on there, it says the cooperative Edison Metuchen lacrosse program. We could table that and let everything else go through.
We discussed this last week, and I am in agreement with you, Mr. Patel, that I think that we needed to do more homework before voting on this. We had talked about that. I'm also in favor of tabling it, but I'll vote as needed, so I'll second that motion for Mr. Mohan Patel.
Mr. Board President, could I
Yes,
just weigh in?
Dr. Bragan.
And I know we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. In closed session, there was a brief discussion about it. I did double check with our athletic directors, and all we're doing here is sending this into the NJSI AA, and there's a timeliness to doing that. We're not agreeing to any cooperative without having the parameters that we talked about. How many kids would it entail? Would there be a cost from the participating school? And I think I would agree, and I think the board, when we had the brief discussion, agreed too, that we would have to get all that information before we agreed to any of this, and we would never want to negatively impact the students of Edison. But if we don't do this, even if all those things worked out and it was a win-win for us and Metuchen, we wouldn't be able to do it because there's a timeliness with the NGSI AA to submit this application to them. We are not agreeing to any cooperative tonight. So I would counsel the board that they should approve this permission to pursue the agreement that we send to the NGSI AA, because otherwise we can't do it, even if a month from now we all thought it was in the best interest of both districts.
In
Yes,
regards
Mr. Patel.
Yes, in regards to that, I would actually I would be uncomfortable to vote on this tonight without having any other additional information as to how it's going to help our students above Metuchen students for the lacrosse program. I understand that there is a timeliness to get this out there, but I don't want to be the timeliness at the peril of our students. Period. So that's the reason why I would like to table it for tonight.
Dr. Brady, can I ask a
Yes,
question?
Mr. Rivera, can you?
Are we going in this agreement because of a lack of numbers? Because I hate to see us lose a program because we don't have kids that are participating.
Our numbers are not as dire, obviously, as they were in Metuchen. Metuchen at this time had 1 or 2 players interested. Our numbers are in the low 20s. Healthy program, you'd like to be in the 40s, right? Our sports are declining across both high schools due to whatever variety of reasons, specifically with girls' sports as well. But I'm pretty confident, and I talked to the ADs, that if we don't approve this tonight, it's not going to happen this year, whether we both schools want to do it anyway. And that was the timeliness in submitting it to the NJSIAA, who's the governing body for interscholastic athletics.
I have to say, just for the record, that now that in explaining it and out of respect for your counsel, Dr. Bragan, I think it makes sense. While I was in favor of tabling it and I said that, I just want to let the record show that I will be voting for this based on what your counsel is.
I just hate to see kids losing an opportunity, and if
No
it's
reason
not
to delay, right?
I understand your point, though, Mohan.
I appreciate it. May I have our board, if Ann can read out that so for the audience to understand it as well, so this way we're not in the dark in that sense. So if you could read it word for word as it stands for the audience and the public that's watching us at this moment.
Ms. Gluck, would you be able to read that resolution for us?
Cooperative Edison/Metuchen Lacrosse Program. Whereas the Metuchen Board of Education has requested that the Edison Township Board of Education consider expanding the lacrosse program to include student players from Metuchen High School. And whereas the Edison Township Board of Education supports the request of the Metuchen Board of Education, and whereas the Edison Township Board of Education approves and authorizes the submission of an application to the NJSIAA requesting that they, along with Metuchen High School, join a cooperative Edison Metuchen lacrosse program. And now therefore be it resolved that the Edison Board of Education's administration is hereby directed to take all necessary and appropriate steps to carry out this action of the board.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Peng.
If this gets approved today, and later on we find out we do have enough players and we do not want to take anybody from Metuchen, how do we reverse this? Or is it necessary to reverse this? How do we,
Dr.
approve
Bragan.
that?
It's a great question. This is just to submit an application. This isn't the agreement. We would have to get an agreement with Metuchen Public Schools in order for us to move forward. And, our numbers are lower. They're not, again, at the dire numbers that Metuchen is. But we're basically giving permission to submit an application to the NJSIAA, which there is a timeliness to. After which, lacrosse is a spring sport. We'd have to get that information to the board and say, here's what we're proposing. Here's the exact number of children from both high schools. Here's what the charges for someone to participate would be, and here's the parameters as we talked about briefly at the last meeting. I don't think we would move forward at all until we had an this is a permission to submit an application to have an agreement. It's not an agreement.
If I may ask.
Yes, Mr. Patel.
This statement basically states as is that Metuchen is directing Edison Board of Education to do what they want the Board of Education of Edison to do in their presence. What I'm saying is very simple. This whole thing should be avoided first and foremost right now. The reason why is I want the opportunity for our students to make up that program, to get those, if we're missing some seats or some teams are missing a few players, we should have the option of getting the word out to the public in our schools to get the players that we need first and foremost. Second, if we don't have any in J.P. Stevens, then we should ask Edison High School if they have any lacrosse players that want to play on a team that don't have the opportunity to play there first. My whole thing is, if you're able to do that, then you're able to put that out there if you want to. I'm going to vote no on that, and I would actually prefer that we don't all vote, that we all vote no on that, because it shows a presence to everyone else that we do care for our students first before anyone else's school students coming in place. Thank you.
Just to be clear, this is to submit an application. This is not to enter in the actual program. I think when we spoke, Mohin, we were in total agreement that we wouldn't want our Edison taxpayers to support children from another district with our dollars to play a sport, whether that means coaching, whether that means equipment, uniforms, etc. So I think that there would have to be a further discussion upon this application potentially being approved on how that would work. However, I don't think we're there yet, so the first step in the process is to put the application in, so this way we're not delaying this a year, and we can work towards that.
Sure. Quick question, what is the deadline for this application?
I think Dr. Bragan had just said it's timely and the deadline is soon, correct?
Yeah, I believe it's September. If we waited till the next board meeting, it would be too late.
My vote is still no on that, I'm sorry, because I feel we're actually doing a disservice. I don't care if it's an application for this or that. If it's going to read as it is, it doesn't give us any leeway to amend it afterwards. Because you're putting an application as both for Metuchen and for yourself in regards to this. And if, God forbid, we have a few players for JP Stevens that missed out because we took a Metuchen player on, or we didn't give an opportunity to an Edison High School player, that is something that I'm not going to be able to live with. So that's why I'm going to vote no on that. Thank you.
Dr. Bragan, can I ask you a question?
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Mr. Rivera.
So this is just an application for them to participate on a lacrosse team, but it's not an actual agreement. So if we created an agreement with stipulations saying that based on the numbers of a team, that Edison residents have first priority, meaning Edison High School students, JP Stevens students, could we write an agreement, something like that, and then Metuchen, if there's space available, opening up to Metuchen? Because my whole thing is, as an educator, I don't want to take any opportunity from any of our children, no matter if you're in Edison High, JP Stevens, Perth Amboy, Metuchen. You know, these are our youth, and at some point, I'm sorry, I don't want to take opportunities away from them, but I do want to make sure our kids have opportunities first. So if we could have, I honestly think we should vote yes for just the application, but I also think that we should have stipulations and that Edison residents have first priority to this team.
Well said, Mr. Rivera. Mr. Rubin.
Yeah, I'm listening to the board's comments. Would it address the concerns of the board members if the concern is about the way the resolution is literally worded? Would it help if the resolution itself were reworded to add on some language indicating that something like the way it's worded now, but to continue on with the understanding that this is to simply preserve the district's ability to enter into an agreement, but does not commit the district to anything, if that was part of the resolution?
That actually would be something more agreeable to.
Can we
Yes.
add something like we are, the one, even if this is approved, an application is approved, we are still going to see an agreement. The agreement has to come to the board for approval.
Dr. Haydock.
Yeah, and Mr. Rubin, you just answered a good question for me to clarify, but for the public, just as a former coach in a high school level, you cannot combine our two high schools into a program, if I'm clear, because then that would break our NJSIAA rules. So if JP did not have enough students, then we couldn't join with Edison to create that team, unfortunately. I wish we could, because we probably have a really good team. But unfortunately, it has to be two separate teams, if I'm clear. That's why this resolution would actually add players from Metuchen, if possible, so that JP could have a team. Am I clear?
I think we could potentially do that. We would have to demonstrate an application to the NJSIAA on the reason why we would do that and why we would have to do that. And an example is the hockey team. Now, our current hockey team is parent-funded, where the parents pay almost the entire cost for the hockey. But before we invited Metuchen to be a part of it, it was Edison High School and John P. Stevens, because individually we didn't have enough students to, to put a full team on.
Right.
And then we also have students now from Metuchen, so it's actually the three high schools all participate, but that has to be, you have to get prior permission, approval, and demonstrate the reason you're doing that is your numbers are such that you can't have a team on your own, otherwise you would make those powerhouse teams, like you said.
Now, is that only parent-paid programs, or is that?
No, there can be other cooperatives.
Okay.
Board President,
Mr. Patel.
just on what Dr. Haydock just said, if we're not able to take Edison students, because we're violating this, how are we able to take Metuchen students and be okay with that?
Mr. Patel, for clarity, I think that we would be able to do it if the application was eventually approved. So this, even if we wanted to combine our two high schools that are in our own district, we would still be required to apply in the similar fashion.
Okay, so I'm for making sure we have the revision on that before we vote on it, so.
Mr. Rubin, would you be able to help us amend this resolution?
Sure. Let me just pull it up. So if we added on to the text of the resolution, let me just suggest some language here. With the understanding that this action is solely to preserve the district's ability to enter into an agreement if the board subsequently approves one. Would that satisfy my colleagues?
For me, yes. Mr. Patel?
I would add that, and also if the board, if the administration doesn't find the subsequent numbers that we need for a team to function, only then. So I would be in revision of this with that stipulation in there stating that if for any reason Board of Education of Edison is unable to meet the team standard numbers from both J.P. Stevens and Edison High School, there we will go ahead into this agreement with Metuchen.
So just a point of order, with those amendments, do I take it, Mr. Patel, you're withdrawing your motion to table? Because that motion's still on the table at the moment.
Bearing in mind that the provisions are put in the way we're stating. Yes, then I will take it off the table if we're able to put the revisions in there.
Mr. President, we're now back under discussion of the main motion.
The main motion, which is now amended to include the language that you just said, I think the spirit of this resolution is now in agreement with consensus. I heard both Mr. Rivera, I see a head nod from Ms. White down there. So I think we're probably in agreement. Mr. Patel, are you comfortable with holding a vote?
I'm comfortable with holding a vote as long as you're putting in that both Edison High School and J.P. Stevens High School students will have first priority in the team before we go to Metuchen to pick some players from there. That has to be in there, or else we should table it.
With all of that said, do I have a motion to approve the finance resolutions?
Motion.
Second.
Ms. Madiger, second. Mr. Rivera motioned. Roll call, please.
Dr. Haydock?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Burrell Patel?
Yes on the motion. Item number 2, masonry repair and asphalt. The Budget Planning and Oversight Committee asked to rebid that, and we have 2 bids. The same old mass masonry, which has been doing work for the district, and nobody has bid for it. And another one that came in was Hershey Construction. I see we are awarding it to mass masonry. That's fine because we want to halt any work starting tomorrow if there is a need. But at the same time, Dr. Bragan, in the upcoming Budget Planning and Oversight Committee meeting, will discuss it one more time. Yes on the motion.
Okay.
Mr. Mohan Patel?
Yes, with the stipulated amendments to it, letting the players of JP and Edison get the first dibs on the lacrosse team before they go out to Metuchen.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Pang?
Yes, on the condition that the revision is going to be added to the lacrosse team application, that the agreement needs to come to the board for approval.
Mrs. Madiker?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
I want to thank this board for the constructive dialogue. I think that we improved the resolution that was previously not as good as the one we just voted on, so thank you. Next, we're going to do committee reports. We have first up our Budget Planning and Oversight Committee. Mr. Birol Patel.
Thank you, Board President. Right, so we had a Budget Planning and Oversight Committee meeting on Monday, September 12th from 4 to 5:45 p.m. Board members in attendance were Birol Patel, Brian Rivera, Doug Schneider, and Moin Patel. The administrators were Dr. Bragan, Mrs. Clark, Dr. Eldarelli, and Bill Colibas. we had a vendor in attendance who was Jen Edwards from Acacia Financial. Businesses discussed were facilities updated and equipment purchase, energy saving improvement program, ECMs required for the district, and energy saving improvement program for solar PPA. There was a presentation from Acacia Financial Advisor from Acacia, Jen Edwards, and Health, Dental, and Prescription Insurance Review. The committee asked to meet TCO Energy and Acacia Financial again very soon for further review of the ESIP, ECMs, and the numbers. Committee will once again review the insurance numbers when we have more information. The details of the business discussed were like this. Facilities updated and equipment purchase. Mr. Colibas discussed purchasing of the equipment and indicated that 145K was allocated in budget for snow removal. There were issues with the equipment. The committee recommended Mr. Colibas to move forward with the equipment purchase. Energy saving improvement program, ECMs required for the district. Mr. Colibas and Dr. Bragan discussed about priority list for energy saving improvement program measures that the district should implement. Top items were lighting, LED lighting inside and outside, energy management systems, boilers, rooftop replacements, and some water consumption equipments, and many other conservation measures. The committee also discussed if this can be done by the district themselves. Committee asked the administration to reach out to DCU Energy for the next steps related to all these measures that were discussed and the ECMs for the program, except the solar PPA. For the solar PPA, the committee and Dr. Bragan reviewed the option of issuing RFP. Dr. Bragan will ask DCU Energy to review with the committee the ECMs for the program without the solar PPA, and the committee shall regroup and review the numbers. There was a presentation, very informative presentation from Jen Edwards from Acacia Financial, and she provided very useful information and options for borrowing. It was indicated that the reason why district should go with the energy saving improvement program was so that they can do a 20-year lease, because the savings for the energy project, it pays for itself. The current energy cost for the district is close to $3 million. The EC program becomes beneficial for the district as it gives financing option, and it is advisable for the district to use financing for the program to take advantage of the savings. Committee decided to meet with the DCU Energy and financial advisor to go over the updated numbers and asked the financial advisors to be prepared with the numbers for the upcoming meeting. Committee discussed the options for lease purchase for the projects that are in current infrastructure improvement project. Recommendation was to use the capital reserves for some projects and finance for certain projects. Committee decided to meet with the financial advisor again to go over numbers. There are certain projects that can qualify for financing. For example, the J.P. Stevens addition would qualify for the same, and certain that won't. Regarding the insurance review, committee reviewed the final numbers for health, dental, and prescription insurance for fiscal year 22. For the whole year, it was $40.6 million. District had budgeted $39.6 million, and district received approximately $2 million in prescription rebates, meaning the costs were under the budgeted amount. The district also created an insurance reserve of approximately $4 million and committed to $9 million from the excess surplus to add to the health reserve account. These final numbers will be determined after the audit for the year 22 is completed. It was revealed by our new insurance broker that about $43,000 went to Alamo for commission for prescription in excess of our agreement regarding Alamo's commission. In addition to this, 10% of vision coverage prescription premiums of those who took vision coverage was also going to Alamo as well. The next meeting will be very soon, where we'll discuss the pending business and other items. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biro Patel. Next, we have our...
Can I ask a few questions?
Sure. Yep.
Just
Ms. Peng.
when will the detail of the financing the expansion be presented to the whole board or to the public? Do we have a estimated time?
Dr. Bragan?
We have those numbers. If the whole board wants them, we can present them tomorrow if you want.
And to the public too? So
To who?
to the public?
Yeah. Is there a specific question I could answer?
No.
Board President, if I may.
Mr.
Just
Patel.
just to make sure we go over all the numbers and all the public knows what projects are being worked on and when and how and so forth. So just to give the public the details of where their money is going and what we're doing with it. So that's something that she's asking for in terms of, do we have an idea when we're going to have that?
Understood. So during our August meeting, we approved our financial advisor and Ms. Jen Edwards. She came last Monday, and we met. That was the day that we were going to have the committee of the whole meeting. Instead of having the committee of the whole meeting, we met with our financial advisor to go over numbers. She's putting together and compiling her advice. I believe that there's a meeting on the schedule for the administration tomorrow.
With DCO and with Ms. Edwards from Acacia.
Right. So once we get through some of these meetings, I think that the board will be advised as to how, the financing is working out. Now, I don't want to give anyone the impression, however, that means that things are going slow. The architects are still working based on this board's unanimous support. We've been working hard on all 4 middle schools, including and in addition, the J.P. Stevens 30 classroom addition. Dr. Bragan, if you could give everyone an update as to where we're at with those 5 projects to start.
Yeah, there's logistics and there's a process to that. If you could, on the agenda, there was approval of DMR and USA to submit their approvals to the DOE. So the DOE has some requirements, the Department of Education, when we're doing any kind of construction. And there's parameters and permits and things that we have to do that right now we're in the process of doing with both USA and DMR. And getting ready to submit those. I think the board president and I signed off on the plans from DMR, and we're waiting for the final plans from USA. Once we sign off on those, they formalize it. There's a couple of fees involved with the DOE. We submit it to approval for the DOE. Once we get approval, that comes back to the board, and we're able to go out to bid for those projects. And obviously, the board's a part of that process throughout, writing the bid, putting the bid out, and then determining which company would get the winning bid.
So, just a quick question from
Mr. Patel.
Will the financial advisor have a rate schedule for us to go over and see what rates are trending as and how we're going to be able to finance that through?
Right, so I think that's
Mr.
what
Patel.
we discussed. That's what we discussed in the last meeting, and is it written in the minutes? The committee asked Jen Edwards to specifically come with numbers, work with DCU Energy as well, in parallel on all the projects, and come with multiple set of numbers. And I think we also asked Jen Edwards to make sure that as and when the committee discusses, to be ready with the numbers. So in the next upcoming meeting, and Dr. Bragan, you will also have more information when you speak with them tomorrow. In the upcoming committee meeting, there will be certainly more information available, which will be presented by the financial advisor. At that point of time, the decision, we can move forward with the decision of the energy saving program and the projects as well in terms of the financing. And then if the very next available opportunity, I think we should disclose. But right now, I think it's too early for these numbers to be, to be disclosed, because we don't have the numbers right now, right? We'll only have more information as and when we ask her, Jen Edwards, to plug in the final numbers. That's when the final numbers will come in.
That's accurate. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question?
Ms. Madiger.
So something that I read in this report is slightly concerning to me, and I'll just read the lines. It was revealed by a new insurance broker that about $43,000 went to Alamo for commission for prescription in excess of our agreement regarding Alamo's commission. I'm just wondering, how does that happen? How do we pay somebody in excess of our agreement?
Dr. Bragan?
Well, obviously, it's not something that we were aware of. When we get the agreements, our prescription providers, a company called Express Scripts, and we have a third-party broker that brokers those deals and tries to get us the best deals on rebates and different things with medications. And when we had our previous broker, their company negotiated all those agreements and those deals and put together the contracts and the agreements, and hidden within that agreement, and I say hidden because it wasn't in plain sight for me, and I did sign it, so there's no one else to blame but myself. But we trust in our insurance brokers that are giving us that information, that that's their expertise in that field. It was not revealed when our new broker came in, and we were re-upping those deals moving forward for our prescription, which they did a great job. We saved a significant amount of money and got a decent amount of rebates despite being put in the wrong formulary initially. But nonetheless, that was revealed that we had no knowledge of it. So they actually signed a 2-year agreement, which right now the third-party provider is putting that in escrow until we figure out the legalities of their ability to do that, because that compensation for commission was in excess of the maximum limit that the board put on.
Thank you, Dr. Bragan.
Dr. Bragan, if I may add, Board
Yes,
President.
Mr. Patel.
Just in regards to that, how much did we save in our overall program in regards to the health savings that we did?
Well, savings, it depends on what you consider savings. We budgeted $3.3 million a month, which I'm going to do math quick in my head now. I think that comes out to $39,600,000 on the year. Our actual spend was about $40,600,000 for medical, prescription, and dental. So on the surface, we actually went over what we had budgeted. And we used those numbers from our broker's recommendations at that time. When you factor in the rebates, which are different medications, different usages, again, that's negotiated with the third-party vendor and our prescription provider, which I believe is Express Scripts. We're on track to get about $2 million in rebates. So those rebates will make it a little bit less than what we had budgeted for. But what we didn't do was build a significant reserve, which for a district as large as us, that reserve account, for catastrophic things or significant increases, as everybody knows, everything costs more this year than it did last year. So those costs are going up, and our reserve now is about $4 million, as Mr. Patel said, that at the June board meeting, this board allocated for excess surplus up to the amount of $9 million, which will determine what our final audit is done, and we may add more to our reserves. So in the end, if you take into account the rebates, we're a little lower than what we budgeted, but we didn't put enough in our reserves from the perspective of our new broker.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. White, Township Liaison Committee.
The Township Liaison Committee was held on Tuesday, September the 13th, 2022, beginning at 11:01 a.m. and ending at 12:10 p.m. at the Education Center. In attendance in person were Council VP Joyce Ship Freeman, BOE Board President Douglas Schneider, Board Member Moen Patel, Superintendent Dr. Bernard Bragan, BOE Human Resources Director Dr. Edward Aldarelli, and Virginia White, Committee Chair. In attendance via Zoom were Senator Patrick J. Dignan, Senator's Chief of Staff Greg Tafaro, Adam Taylor from the Department of Environmental Protection, Robert Deal, Coordinator for the Township Master Plan, Pat Coyle, Township Constituent Relations, Deputy Police Chief Robert Dudash, Sergeant Michael Semino, Edison PD, and Council President Joe Coyle. We began our meeting with Senator Dignan. Mrs. White asked him thanked him for the increased funding, and she asked if this was a one-time thing. We're hoping for good things to happen in the future. We reviewed the electric school bus funding, security cameras on and off buses. Moen Patel asked about the possibility of live flowers in our county parks as opposed to the artificial ones that are out there now. We were reminded that the drought this summer, the artificials seemed to work out very well. Moen also asked for additional restrooms in the county parks. The senator asked for a wish list from the Board of Ed for review, and Dr. Bragan said he would provide one. Adam Taylor from the Department of Environmental Protection was our next guest. He provided information on property covered by Green Acres or the Rossi. Adam will be sending us additional information for review. Bob Deal gave us an update on the Township Master Plan. The committee has been meeting regularly. This is not an easy task, and they hope to complete it within 12 to 14 months. There is a meeting scheduled for October the 19th at the municipal building for the different town groups to share information. Deputy Chief Robert Dudash provided us with information on the Junior Police Academy. They were well attended and successful and will be continued in the future. Crossing guards. There is still a terrible shortage for crossing guards, and if anyone is interested, they will be paying $19 an hour. Privatization is still on the table. Deputy Chief Dudash, along with Sergeant Semino, updated us on some of our traffic issues. At JP Stevens, there's a new right turn, and it seems to be working out in a positive way. Herbert Hoover is continuing with the same traffic pattern from last year, and it is working. Monroe, they have new signage, painted curbs, and crosswalks. Parents and guests are still adjusting to the changes in the traffic patterns. Woodrow Wilson Middle School, they will be opening one of the side streets to help with the flow of traffic before and after school. Open discussion. Deputy Fire Chief Andy Toth provided me with information on the Jobs Opportunity film that has been a work in progress. It should be completed by the end of October. We are still working on lighted crosswalks and signage for Plainfield Road outside of Woodrow Wilson Middle School. Respectfully submitted, Virginia White. I just wanted to add a little something to this, too. I just wanted to share this with all of you. As you can see from this committee report, traffic issues are a big priority for the Liaison Committee. I want to recognize our police department for all their hard work, Deputy Chief Dudash, Lieutenant Semino, and Lieutenant Doug Turner. They have worked very hard to move things along. I also want to include the Board of Education Security under the direction of Patrick Hussain. Together we're making progress, and together we will continue to move forward, with all of the things that we want to accomplish as far as traffic. It's a slow go, but we are making progress. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mrs. White. Any questions?
Board President? if
Yes,
I may.
Mr. Patel.
Sure. First and foremost, thank you so much, Jeannie, for having me on that committee, and it's a delight always. Just a few things. In regards to Gloria Avenue way that we're trying to create for our kids and the traffic flow, I just want to ask the residents of Gloria Avenue to just work with the district in regards to allowing that traffic to flow so we have less of a congestion, and it's beneficial to you guys as well, right? In regards to the traffic, it's going to be one way for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, I think, when the school is let out. So just work with us in regards to that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is I know the bathrooms are being done in multiple schools at this moment. I want to thank Bill and his team to make sure that they're up and running, functioning, and we're able to flush properly as well, right? So thank you for that. I see that we did the bathrooms in JP, and they look phenomenal, by the way. And other than that, we actually asked Bob Deal in regards to making sure we have the bathrooms open when public can use them in Ulenzi's Park, Senior Citizen Park, basically, and he said he's going to get that done. So the volleyball teams or whoever's playing out there can actually utilize the bathroom and not go on the grass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Kudos to Ms. White for getting all of those important people in the same room every time we have a meeting. So there aren't too many board members that could do that. So thank you very much. Round of applause. Yes, thank you. Before we get to our student reports, I'd like Dr. Bragan to address some of our transportation concerns. It seems to be a very big topic in town, rightfully so. We understand that. So, Dr. Bragan, can you give us an update?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Board President. As we mentioned that on Thursday's meeting, there's still some issues with transportation we're trying to work out. They seem to be getting better each day for the most part. Again, if that's your individual child or your school or your bus and it's late or not on time or missed a stop, that doesn't meet the requirement. We have to be like traffic control. We got to land 100% of the planes 100% of the time, or otherwise we're failing. It's getting better. We're working on it. Two things that are some situations just to apprise the board of. One is the outside vendors. We don't have a lot of control over. We could drop the routes. We could take it away from them, and if they're not performing up to par, we try to hold them accountable if there's an issue with the driver or somebody not knowing the route or the things. And we do. But then that leaves us to pick up the route with our internal people, which we don't always have enough people to do, and to do it in a timely manner. So we're working on that. The other thing is, for us, we're taking over many more routes than we have. We bought those 30 buses. I think with tonight's board agenda, our drivers are up to 45. We have a goal of getting 60. But if we hire somebody tonight and we get them on the road tomorrow, it doesn't mean they know the routes, doesn't mean they know the town, and there's a learning curve. It takes a little bit of time. And I know if you're a parent and you're sitting there waiting for your child, you don't really care about that. You don't want to hear about that. Your expectation is we should have had it done yesterday. I agree, but we didn't. and we didn't have the drivers, and we couldn't secure everybody. We're doing the best we can, and I think we're making progress. Today, I contacted the transportation supervisor at 4:09. Every one of our elementary school buses had picked up the children that had left the building. Now, they get out at 3:30. It's better than it was last week, but it's not where it needs to be. That number should be 3:45, 4 o'clock at the latest. So we're working on it. There's another issue with subscription buses. And we know that people put in for this subscription. We put a deadline of August 15th. We've tried to accommodate, August 15th, yes, that's right. And I think we have most of those already settled and placed on buses. The problem as it presents right now, for those families that wanted subscription busing that put in after that date, we're finding that the routes are full. So the way the subscription rate works, if you're within the 2.5 miles for secondary or the 2 miles for elementary, and there's a bus that goes past your location and there's a seat on that bus, you have to pay a fee, and we put you on that bus, and we create an additional stop. Hopefully there's a few families in that area and we can do it. The problem is right now those routes are almost all 100% fill. And we still have a significant amount of subscription people that want transportation. So we met with the transportation supervisor today. We're going to contract out for those routes. We're going to make a specific routes that are just subscription routes. And it's not one or two. We're looking at dozens. So it's a lot. It's a lot of children and it's a lot of bus routes. But right now, that's the biggest crux, is the subscription busing. The students that were eligible to be placed on available seats. So now the issue is we have to create additional routes for those other families that don't have, we don't have room for, we don't have routes for it. And we're doing it, and we're hopefully to get that done sooner than later. And it's a work in progress, and hopefully every day and every week we get better at it.
Thank you, Dr. Bragan. Ms. Madiger.
So just one question, Dr. Bragan. So this time people were using Google Forms, right, to fill up an application. But when you fill up a Google form, does it give you a receipt or a confirmation that you filled a form?
My understanding was that they did get notification. It should have been that your form was received, and there was an application to put on through a credit card charge, through, what's the name of that program, man? Community Pass. So that should have been acknowledged. If it isn't and anyone has a question, email transportation. And I know some people expressed that they didn't get their responses. Email me, and we'll find out if someone has a question.
Okay, thank you.
I think I could speak for most, if not all, of the board members in saying that we hear pretty much daily from people regarding bus issues. And we report immediately to our administrators. Everyone is very, very motivated to help everyone. If we could all drive buses every day, it would probably be great. It's just we're transporting a lot of children, and we're not glossing over the topic. We're not trying to tell everybody everything's okay when there are students that aren't getting where they need to go. So we recognize the issue. We're working on it, and us as a board, our job is to make sure that Dr. Bragan and his team are doing the best they can for our students. And so far we are, but hopefully it gets better and better, as we just said. So thank you to this board for all of the many, many emails and messages that go up the food chain, so to speak. Okay, next, I would like to introduce our representative from Edison High School, Miss Serena Ahmed. And I'd like to welcome you here, and you have the microphone. And you could take as much time as you want, and you tell us anything you want about whatever you want.
Right.
Enjoy.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. As mentioned, my name is Serena Ahmed, and I am the president of the Student Council at Edison High School. I'm very happy to say that the beginning of the year at Edison High has been off to a great success. Our freshman orientation welcomed over 500 new students, and with these new faces, we've seen increased engagement within our student body. Particularly, our back to school night was recently, and we saw 50+ volunteers come after hours to help navigate students and parents around the school, answer questions, help sell apparel, and this is really nice to see, especially considering the past 2 years there was a little bit of a decrease in school spirit. Along the lines of increased school spirit, the Eagles have been bringing home some nice victories, which is always good to see. At sporting events, our NEST, our student section, has been getting really creative with at games, getting ready, getting excited, and that's also very nice to see. We're looking forward to homecoming and spirit weeks and games, and it's really nice to see that new students who have been around but not been involved before want to get their voices heard, and my board and I have been working really hard to integrate all those voices and create school events that are fun for everybody. Switching gears a little bit, our very own Cadence Sarney represented Edison's female athletes at the NJSIAA's Title IX 50th Luncheon, which is really impressive, so we're proud of her. And our marching band and color guard received the highest score out of all the schools at their Hopewell Valley competition, so making us proud once again. We're big fans of the arts. Thank you for listening, and it's always great to brag about what's great about Edison High. So.
Thank you so much, Serena. Very nice. Mr. Patel, you have a question?
Sure. Board Member Ahmed, may I ask you a question in regards to what your, what is one thing that we can work on as a team to help Edison High with from your student council side?
I would say that just getting out the fact that the board is there and willing to listen to student voices, because I think that a lot of the dialogue that I've heard as a student is like, the Board of Ed, they're grown-ups, they are talking about budgets. And I think that it's really important that they know that you guys are willing to help, so just getting that conversation out there, I think.
Awesome. Just let them know that you guys are our bosses, so we're here for you, you know, we work for you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Next, we have Ms. Vivian Lee from J.P. Stevens.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vivian Lee, one of the presidents of the Student Council at J.P. Stevens. And although the school year has just started, it looks like it's going to be a great year. And I think the majority of the student body is really happy that things are back to normal this year. So, although the school year has just started on September 6th, a lot has happened since then, so let's break it down. Some exciting news is our choir has been invited to the All Nationals Conference in Cincinnati this year. Only 28 choirs across the country are invited to this event, and ours is one of them. We are also the only choir from New Jersey that is performing, and that is a huge honor. So moving on to our sports department, one of our football captains, Marcella Iverson, has been nominated for the USA Football Heart of a Giant Award. If you haven't already, please support her by voting on usafootball.com/HOAG vote. At last Friday's game, September 16th, the class of 2023 hosted a tailgate, and it was a huge blast. The Hawaiian-themed football game had a huge turnout, and it was really fun. If you guys haven't, I would highly encourage you to come to a football game this year. Our next home game is September 30th. If you do come, you'll also get to watch our marching band's new show, The Circle of Life. On the topic of band, on October 1st, the 34th Annual Marching Band Festival will be hosted here at J.B. Stevens outside. The band, as well as 16 other bands from the region, will be performing, and gates will open at 3:30. As for our soccer team, our boys team has started off the season strong, winning their first 2 games. They won 4-1 against Bayonne High School and 3-0 against our crosstown rivals, Edison High. As for our girls' soccer team, they have won for the first time in 12 years against Piscataway High School, which is really incredible. And just throwing the ball over to tennis, our girls' tennis team has been crushing the competition, winning 4 out of their 5 matches. They also placed second at the Livingston September Smash Tournament on September 10th, which is really exciting, and we're excited to follow them throughout the season. Just some other upcoming events this fall season include our club fair on October 6th, fall pep rally on October 28th, and our homecoming on November 4th, which will be our first normal homecoming since 2019. So that pretty much wraps up what's been going on at JP, and thank you for listening.
Board President.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lee.
If I may-
Mr. Patel.
Board Member Ms. Lee, thank you for joining us, and the same question to you as well. What are one of the things that we can work on as a team to address from your student council?
I think that Serena phrased it perfectly earlier, that you guys are here to listen to our concerns and you're here to help us. So
Awesome.
just what Serena said.
Can you repeat that URL, the address again in regards to the voting for our team member here, like from the football team? Or?
Could you repeat the question, please? Oh.
The poll address.
Oh, yes. So Marcella Iverson has been nominated for the USA Football Heart of a Giant Award. You can vote for her on usafootball.com/HOAG vote.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lee.
Thank you.
I'm really going to confuse everybody because I'm going to give you another website. So there's a website called R, the letter R, schooltoday.com, and I stumbled over it, and it sent me to an app, and I downloaded the app on my phone, and now it filters out Edison High School and JP Stevens, all the athletic events. So I could just click on the app, and it gives me on a daily schedule who's playing, JV, freshman, varsity, everybody. It tells me where they're playing, if they're home or away. It's really great. So if I see many board members at athletic events and at the marching band competition, et cetera. So if anybody's interested in learning more about our schedule, that's a great place to go. Maybe Mr. Ross could correct me if there's a better place to go, but that app really has been a wonderful addition. I think, Ms. Joyce, if we could get some township events on there, that would even be better if somehow everything merged, but I don't know if we're that good. So anyway, upcoming meetings. We have our caucus meeting, Thursday, October 13th at Edison High School at 7 o'clock, and that's in our brand-new auditorium. And the public meeting on Tuesday, October 18th at Edison High School at 7 o'clock in our brand-new auditorium. So we look forward to seeing everybody then. And with that said, I'm going to open it up to the board members for an open discussion. I can start with Dr. Haydock on the end.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And if Ms. Lee, if you had another obligation, if you'd like to, leave us for now, but we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Ms. Serena is going to stay with us. Dr. Haydock.
I'm sure they have full schedules. Board meetings are just part of that responsibility, so thank you, Vivian, for being here. Just a couple things. I know the topic of transportation has been a huge topic in our school district, but I want to commend another department, the enrollment department, who I did not hear too many concerns about with enrollment, with the increased kindergarten numbers. Speaking to Dr. Bregan, with his leadership in mind, they had a good plan. I want to commend that department for doing a job well done. I think it was better than last year, so great job on that. I did attend the JP Edison game. I know, Serena, you didn't bring up the score there, which Vivian threw a low blow there with the soccer, but that was great to see the community come out. Really fun night, even though the score was a little lopsided. The sportsmanship, the character of those athletes and the coaches was key, and it represented our town very well. I also want to commend the 9/11 event that I went to in town. It was touching to see so many members of the community come out, enjoy each other's presence on a very solemn day, to remember all those heroes and those that unfortunately lost their life, including some of the victim families that were there. We did mention last time, and Brian's here now, our hearts go out to Brian, who lost his father recently, so I send my best regards to your family continuously. Hispanic Heritage Month is this month. It started September 15th. It's going to continue until October 15th. A lot of students, unfortunately, and some adults believe it's just for the end of September, but it does carry into mid-October too. So we celebrate our Hispanic Americans, not necessarily only in Edison, but throughout the country and around the world, for all their tributes and all their experiences within our community. And finally, Monday and Tuesday is Rosh Hashanah, so I send my love and Happy New Year to all of our Jewish families and friends in town and across, again, the country. We'll be celebrating, I'm sure, in my community too, in my home area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Haydock. Mr. Patel.
Thank you, Board President. First and foremost, congratulations to our new board members and welcome. And in regards to this whole season, happy Rosh Hashanah for all those that celebrate, as well as Navratri. Happy Navratri to those that celebrate as well. And look forward to another meeting next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Ms. Peng?
Oh, yeah, I do have a couple of announcements. It's actually my honor to make some announcement on behalf of Dr. Verdi and Mr. Lee here. First, John P. Stevens High School Orchestra and Collegium Musicum will perform a joint concert dedicated to music composed during Holocaust. The concert, titled Voices from the Holocaust, will take place at JP High School on October 12th at 7 p.m., featuring a solo performance of Schindler's List by Brennan Sweet, Associate Concertmaster of the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra. Features of this concert also include music pieces composed at Terezin concentration camp, 1942 through 1944, by Gildan Klein and Pavel Haas, as well as fragments from the Brandenburg, a children's opera first performed in the Theresienstadt. An exhibition of the opera showcases in the school's front lobby, and a performance on violins recovered from the Holocaust lent to the orchestra by Violins of Hope. A Holocaust survivor will be speaking at this event. Tickets will go on sale by Friday, September 26th at the Eventbrite. Ticket sale will be donated to the Collegium Musicum to substitute the costs associated with the project and fund future performances at the Edison JCC. All are welcome to attend. Another announcement, the John P. Stevens High School Orchestra was selected as a national finalist for one of the top school orchestras in America and will be performing at Lincoln Center in New York City on March 4th, 2023. They will be competing for the title of National Orchestra Champions. World-renowned music educators and professional musicians will provide adjudication and exclusive workshops. Our orchestra director, Mr. Lee, and Dr. Verdi, and the rest of the JPS orchestra students are excited to perform and compete on the world-class stage of Alice Tully Hall in a once-in-a-lifetime event. And that's, I just want to add, it's quite a, achievement. Kudos to Mr. Lee and Dr. Verdi, and to all of our music teachers and students at JP for competing at this top level, national level. Best of lucks. We all know that it really takes years to build a great music programs like we have in our high schools. I applaud to all the teachers in high school music department, and I think credit should also go to middle school and elementary school music teachers who has been providing, feeders to our high schools. And speaking of the middle school, a few months ago, I raised my concern regarding to the AB schedule change. So both our foreign language and music programs were changed from alternating days to alternating marking period. My concern is simple, practice makes perfect. If kids do not practice language or music for several months, they're going to forget the vocabulary, get rusty on their skills. Then it's going to probably take another month for them to get back to the level they were before. But recently I just heard, actually we're not doing alternating marking period, we are doing alternating semester, which means our kids won't have music or foreign language in the school for almost 5 months. So I think not providing music or foreign language for 5 months is really a disservice to our students. These individual students will miss this couple of years of the window to improve their skills, and the window that they will never get back. Our high school, the impact to the high school program may not be imminent, but might be it will show a few years down the road. So I just want to ask the question, is this, because initially this was going to be an alternating marking period, so we're switching every marking period. Now it seems like it's every semester. Is this decision final, or is there any way that we can still make it alternating marking period? Because it's just the beginning of the year right now. So that's what I wanted to ask. Maybe curriculum committee can answer this.
I think that question is directed to Dr. Bragan.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Patel.
Thank you, Board President. Right, so I announced this last week when you were not here, Mr. Rivera, but condolences and prayers for your family in these difficult times. A huge warm welcome to board members, Ms. Ahmed and Ms. Lee. This is, it was so great to hear from both of you about different things that are happening in the school, because Mr. Ross, you never told us about any of these things all this time when you were in the board meetings. So to know about the events and all the updates in the beginning of the school and the sports, football, the awards that we talked about, the players, the voting that we can do, the marching band, the soccer teams and everything. What I would like to request here is, and Dr. Bragan, you can see if you can email all this information to us after you announce in the public meeting, so we can mark our calendars accordingly, because all these events sound to be wonderful, and we would like to be a part of it, an opportunity to see what all is happening in the district and at the both high schools. So, and again, Mr. Ross doesn't tell anything about this, right, Mr. Ross? So it would be very helpful now if the student representatives can inform us about that, so we can mark our calendars. And we don't want to hear from the board members, hey, are you attending this event or that event today? We want to hear from you directly. So please send an email to the board members. So we'll try our best to make it and support any way we can to all our students in both the high schools and all the schools. So thank you so much for all the valuable information that you gave us today. It was very, very helpful.
Yeah, I'll try to touch base with Vivian on creating like a cumulative calendar. I think that'd be helpful.
Awesome, thank you so much. And this is the first month after the school began, and most of the things were smooth and successful. So huge thanks to all our staff, administration, and all the teachers, and all the support staff and all the members, and most importantly, all the parents and students who did a wonderful job and continue doing it, and for the township and for the school district. So everything is looking great this year. So we look forward to another month of joy. There will be a lot of events and things that are happening in the month of October, so including the celebrations will start like Halloween and stuff like this. So looking forward for another wonderful month and wonderful weeks ahead. And happy Rosh Hashanah for everyone who celebrates. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Let the record show, Ms. Serena, that he's the one that gave you the homework. Mr. Biro Patel gave you that homework, not us. Ms. Madiger.
So just because the topic of AB was raised, I will just, provide some clarification. There's some misinformation that this was something that was voted on by the board. It was not. It was not voted by the board. I completely understand the value of having consistent classes, especially in music and orchestra and choir. My daughter is going to Cincinnati as part of J.P. Stevens Chamber Choir, and I have 3 kids who've gone through this music program. So this is something which we need to bring back at some point when we can. Also, I wanted to mention, I'm very excited to see the 2 high school representatives here. The policies we make directly affect you guys. So it's really good to have you here in real time to comment and to contribute. This is an absence that we always felt, having student voice. So I'm very, very happy and excited that you guys are here. And I also wanted to acknowledge a person who's in the audience who advocated for high school representation a long, long time ago. And I heard this from him for the first time. Anthony, that's you, Anthony Diamarin. you advocated for student representation a long time ago, so I want to acknowledge you for that. That would be all. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera.
Hello, everybody. I just got a few things to say. First of all, I love the addition of the new board members, Serena and Vivian. Welcome to our family. You know, you guys are going to do good things, so
Put the microphone down a little bit.
very happy to see you guys here. I'm a little scattered brained today, so I apologize if I come across differently. Second, I'm hoping that our students and staff and our parents had a great opening week, and a great opening month. I know there's been issues going on and some things need to be adjusted. Central administration is working on it, and hopefully they could be rectified quickly. I also want to wish all of our sports and extracurricular teams well for this upcoming fall season. I was able to attend a couple of games, and I had a great time, and I'm wishing them all success. I also want to thank the students and band parents and the faculty for the event that we hit the other day, the Festival of Marching at Edison High School. Our bands performed. Obviously, our bands were the best. The Simon and Garfunkel rendition was phenomenal. I still listen to it now. I also want to recognize all of our security out there. This week is National Security Officer Appreciation Week. So I really do appreciate that you keep my child safe, our children safe, and I believe you guys should be recognized for your hard work, so thank you. I also want to wish those celebrating Rosh Hashanah a blessed New Year. And I also want to recognize Hispanic Heritage Month and thank all of our Hispanic population out there for their great achievements and being role models for some of us to achieve our goals, so thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Ms. White.
All right, I went to 2 events. Well, actually 3. I went to the Festival of Bands, and it was beautiful. They all participated, and they did such a great job. J.P. Stevens was wonderful, so was EHS. But I also had the opportunity to go to the 9/11 Memorial, and we had the National Anthem was done by members of Edison High School's choir, and that consisted of Sadia Ahmed, Thomas Jimenez, Robin Nemeth, Remy Roy, and Bella Wirtz. And then they had a soloist, and her name was Casey Decker, and she was a member of the J.P. Stevens Choir, and she was excellent. She was all by herself, and she did a great job. Then after that, I had the opportunity to go to the POW MIA service that they held, and again, Edison High School's Chamber Choir was there under the direction of Joshua Listner. And they had a soloist as well, and she sang America the Beautiful, and it was Mary Nielsen. And, it just made you so proud. They're so talented, and they do just a, really wonderful job. Our choirs are outstanding. And I know Matthew Lee is going to do a magnificent job when he does his thing. He's just so talented. On the other hand now, I have a small report here on the Parent Help Desk, just to give you a little bit of an update. Okay, the total departments, the total tickets and total calls were 1,597. They closed 843. There were 754 open, and the resolution time, the average, was 5.6 days. Transportation was 648. They closed 189, and they had a total of 459 open, and the resolution time was 5.7 days. Enrollment, which is like amazing in comparison to the past, they had 94 tickets. They closed 89. There were 5 open, and the turnaround time was 7.8 days. Parent portal was 0 right across the board. Food service, they had 6 tickets, they closed 1, 5 were open, and it was 5.9 days. Special services had 1, they closed 1, and they had 0 balance, and it was 4.7 days. Technology was 848, they closed 563, there were 285 still open, and that was 5.4 days. For technology, this is just individual tickets. This does not include all the summer projects and school readiness projects, et cetera. The ticket activity was from July 1 through September 20th. And, that's where the parent portal, that's where the parent help desk stands at this point. Transportation might be a little bit high, but we have a brand new person in there, and she's doing a very good job. So we have to be patient. So thank you.
Board President,
Yes, Mr. Patel.
just a quick request. In regards to the amended statement that we're going to do for the finance report, can we have an email sent out to us as soon as it's done and also post it? And also I request that if Dr. Bragan can send out an email to our athletic department in regards to making sure that we fill those seats before we send out for requests from other schools.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Okay. As everyone knows, this year has one of the most special things that happened this year for our students and our residents, taxpayers, is our reintroduction of full-day kindergarten in town. This is a huge, huge, huge thing for people that live here, are proud to live here, that have previously had to turn to full-day kindergarten at private institutions at a high cost. We now offer this with your property taxes, just like you get first grade and all the way up through your senior year of high school, now you get kindergarten. It hasn't been easy, okay? It's no secret that when I vote on things, I need to abstain sometimes for a conflict, and that's because I am related to someone. My sister is a kindergarten teacher, okay? And I'm proud of that. People think that it's a bad thing that I might know somebody or be related to somebody in town. I actually am proud to say that, and I know firsthand that it's just not easy, right? So the reintroduction of full-day kindergarten is, and I want to give credit to Ms. Beninder, who's in the back there, and she's hiding from me, but her and her team have worked very, very hard to not only, thank you for that round of applause, because it's important, and I want to publicly thank you because it's difficult, not just for the kindergarten students, but remember, the buildings are only so big, so you have to kind of reconfigure class sizes, figure out how we can shift students around, and make sure, obviously, with the Lincoln edition, which was done very well and on schedule for September, we were able to achieve this. Now, of course, not everything's perfect, right? But I think that with this reintroduction and with all of the kindergarten teachers putting such hard work and the administrators, it's a real coup for our taxpayers and the folks that want to move into this township and maintain our property values, and we're really putting money back in people's pockets by making sure that they're not going out into the private sector to spend their money on private kindergarten, and they're able to really take advantage of our excellent education. I also want to mention that with full-day kindergarten, it's indisputable that now our children will be academically further along as they move through elementary school, and that will pay us dividends. People like to talk about, when I walk around town, and they talk about things like school ratings and our academic achievement and everything else. It is indisputable that by offering our children a full day of learning at that age, it gives them a jump start on the rest of their academic career. So it was this board that was able to reintroduce it. It's this board, along with, importantly, the administration, and very importantly, the teachers, and those folks that don't come to these meetings because they're tired because they've been teaching and running around to find kindergartners all day long. So it's so important to say thank you, thank you, thank you to all of those folks.
Board President?
Yes,
if I could
Mr.
just,
Patel.
add to that. I don't believe it's just this board. It was previous boards that actually did their due diligence to try to get the kindergartens into place. So it's a joint effort from a few boards that have this issue that we were working on for a long time, and finally, with Dr. Bragan's input and his guidance and his leadership is the reason why we have the kindergarten program up to date. So it's not just this board, it's the previous boards that were there. Elizabeth was part of it, so was Carol, and also the other board members as well. So just wanted to say kudos to you guys for also being part of that issue of getting the kindergarten, full day kindergarten in place. And Dr. Bragan as well, thank you.
Thank you. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to public comments. I'm going to read the spiel as Ms. Orchid just reminded me. And what I'll do is do that before I call someone up. All speakers are requested to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others whose legal rights may be affected. Please note, while it is not the board's intention to stifle comment on matters of legitimate concern to the school community, the public should be aware that if their statements violate the rights of others under the law governing defamation or invasion of privacy, they may face personal liability to the injured party. If speakers are uncertain of their legal ramifications of their comments, the board urges them to seek guidance beforehand from their own legal advisor. So with that said, I see some hands raised. There's many hands raised, and this is nice. I'll start here with Mr. Romano. Sir, you have 6 total minutes.
My name is Joseph Romano. I live in Edison, New Jersey. I understand transportation's a problem. Some of the bus stops that we have, I can't show you the picture, but it's on someone's front lawn. This is Edison bus at Board of Education, Edison, New Jersey, bus number 05. Do we know how the bus driver wound up on the lawn? Transportation Department, is anybody here? Don't answer that. How about the operator of the bus? That's Edison Township. The driver of the bus, was that driver given an alcohol or a drug test? Pulled off the bus for a requalification? You don't have to answer that. The other question is simple. The picture I have here is a couple of students that are rambling around the bus. Was there another bus called to pick up the students, to deliver the students to their final stop, or were they allowed to walk home? I don't think I have it. Wait, I don't care about the extra time. If anybody wants to comment, they can. Thanks for your time. I have pictures, but I can't give them to you because I got 2 students' pictures in it, and that would violate their rights.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. Mr. Di Pasquale.
Tony DiPasquale, 2 Pine Street. So I have a question about the insurance, because I do remember, I guess a year ago or 2 years ago when we talked about privatizing it, using Alamo, and we were told that we were going to be saving $5 million by privatizing, and Alamo was going to get that done for us. So I'm just wondering, did we save that $5 million, and can there be a more explanation about this? I think the word was hidden money, or money that was not known about. Like, if somebody can answer that, if not, I understand, but I'm just curious again, where was that $5 million savings? Did it happen, or did it not? Thank you.
Thank you.
I can answer that, Mr.
Dr. Bragan?
We definitely saved the $5 million because when we budgeted the $3.3 million per month, while that number seems extraordinarily large to everyone, that was $5 million less than what it was anticipated to be. So that savings was off the start. The concern was, would that be enough to fund the actual cost over the course of the year? And I think I said earlier it did. And we had a little bit on the plus side, actually, with our rebates. So that did work out. Regarding some of the commissions we were unaware of, that's what we talked about. We had a maximum commission rate set at one of our board meetings at $240,000, I believe was the number. And there were some commissions in the prescription and actually in the vision that went over that. So we're looking into, what kind of remedy we have for that.
Mr. DePasquale, I was in the committee meeting when we talked about self-insurance in general. And I think the public, and especially the faculty and staff and those insured by these plans, should know that self-insurance, it's been assured to us, is the right way to go. There's no doubt that for an organization of our size, self-insurance seems to be the way to go. The problem is, and you see it in these notes, that we're allocating money to a reserve, because the way self-insurance works, you need kind of like a pot of cash on the side that can't be touched other than for for the health reserve. So until we put that extra money in that reserve and we build it up, I think it's a $12 or $14 million recommendation. Until it achieves that, we're going to be building it up. So you won't really feel like you're saving anything. And then at some point, if you decide not to do self-insurance, you're going to have that money that could be reallocated to something other than health. So, maybe someday we could build something with that money if we decide to go to a regular plan. So right now in the industry, the advice that we've gotten from professionals, we do our own research, but we rely on these people that we hire, is that self-insurance is the smart way to go for an organization of our size. So I don't want to, to be too negative on the insurance as far as the totality of what the plan is. Who else? Mr. Heelan, and then after that, Mr. Deamron, please.
Dr. Frank Heeland, 55 Harmon Road, Edison. And I just want to congratulate the board on a very fine, good and civil meeting, and even the one issue that was problematic. The board attorney did a very good job in finding the language to get through the logjam. So congratulations, and also to the students, the student board members. I'd like to wish them all the best in bringing the problems of the students to the board members for resolution. And also I'd like to commend Shivi Prasad Madigar for the tremendous job she's done over the year. Specifically, I'd like to go back, Mr. Patel had alluded to it. We were so frustrated when we went around trying to get votes for our candidacy, and it was always so frustrating because the two things were that we heard over and over again: all-day kindergarten and overcrowding, maybe even overcrowding first and all-day kindergarten. And so now it's so wonderful to see that you're able to address these, but in a certain part to Shivi, because she was on a committee which did a great analysis of the state aid. And as you know, it finally kicked in, which we were trying to get for years. We were getting 38% of what we should have gotten, and Sweeney tried to implement it. You had districts like Jersey City that was not only getting 100% of what they should by the formula, but they were getting another extra $145 million, and Hoboken was getting a proportionate amount. So it was really an outrageous system of state aid, and finally it has come about, I think, through the efforts of particularly Sweeney. We went to a lot of hearings, and Shivi was the one who presented a board message that gave all of the numbers and showed that we were getting only 38%, and others were also, Woodridge is getting 32% of what they should get by the formula. So finally, a few years ago, I know it kicked in and they started to go, and it said, well, we'll go year by year and eventually get up there. So the great thing about this is now with the money behind you, without pushing it onto the taxpayers, you're able to get that money which we were entitled to for many years, even though we couldn't get back pay for all those years either. So now we can do some of those great projects. You're able to do those great projects and phase in. I thank you also for Lincoln School. That was one that I had asked you for and pushed for a little bit. And also that it's going to be a phase 1, a phase 2 over the next 5 years. And you'll be able to accumulate $96 million to be able to stop the overcrowding, and additional do the all-day kindergarten, which is a marvelous thing, in which I was the first one to bring it into Somerset County, all-day kindergarten. And so thanks to Shivy for being a big part in leading us in that state aid group to go to the legislators and try to get it changed so that we would get what we're entitled to. Thank you very much, Shivy.
Thank you, Dr. Heelan.
Thank you, Dr. Heelan. Mr. Diamron.
Anthony Diamron, 25 Wiley. It's been a while, I'm a little nervous, so excuse me. First off, for the student representation, kudos to the board for having this initiative now. I think it's extremely important. Thank you, Shivy, for what you said before, but it was just something that I feel was missing on the board, and it could only help. It'll pay dividends, I think, a lot of dividends down the road. So, good job on that. I heard school security. I've been to I haven't been down here to a meeting in a while, but school security, kudos to Dr. Bragan and Kasani. I've actually witnessed with my own 2 eyes. I've seen you guys walk to Dunkin' Donuts before from just driving past you guys. You guys are always conversating. Keeping the kids safe in this school is the #1 job of this district and this board. And from everything I know and I've seen, you guys have done that. But like Mr. Patel said earlier, that's kudos also to the boards before us, and a lot of those members are sitting here this evening. And also Teresa Ward, who I was a big advocate for that, so want to recognize her as well. As far as Dr. Bragan, I want to just thank you for your years of service to this community. You have, I've seen with my own 2 eyes a lot of the good that you have done in this district. We have spoken about that publicly and privately, so I want to thank you. And I'll leave you with this thought. You know, I have the privilege now of dropping off and picking up my girl's son every day at James Monroe. And let me just tell you, the job that principal does is absolutely amazing. And I'm sure there's a lot of principals out there. Mr. Ross is back there, big fan of Mr. Ross as well. But I'm at James Monroe now, and from the individual, the guy that is the crossing guard, who has a tough task, and trust me, that guy, he's improved. The traffic there's not much you can do down there. It is what it is, I guess, at this point. But from that individual to the school resource officer, all the way up, it trickles down. Her attitude, her vibe that she puts out is incredible. It is really a community atmosphere there. The kid, it's a very vibrant atmosphere at that school. And I'll tell you, if that is a representation of the rest of the district, I'll tell you, you've done a damn good job, Dr. Bragan, especially in a post-COVID era. Impressive. So she deserves a lot of credit, Ms. Tafoya, and they just do an incredible job. So I just wanted to give her recognition. And again, Dr. Bragan, I wish you nothing but the best. And thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Maroney. Mr. Manesh, you're up next.
Thank you. Beth Maroney, Somerset, New Jersey. First, I want to congratulate Ms. Ahmed and Ms. Lee for joining the Board of Education, for giving us of your valuable study time, your evening time. I know how critical that is, and my advice to you is if there's anything you don't understand that's going on, ask the person next to you, or see the lawyer, or see Dr. Reagan, or the board president, and they will be happy to answer, okay? And good luck to the both of you. Mr. Rivera, 32 years ago, I lost my father, and he was my world. He was extremely important to me, as I'm sure everybody here who's lost a father has experienced. And my heart really goes out to you for being here tonight. I am so terribly sorry for your loss. And with that said, I want to share a little anecdote about my dad with the rest of you, and there is a point to my story. My father was a phys ed teacher and the athletic director and the head football coach at Highland Park High School, where I was a student. Back in those days, when report cards were made out by teachers, they weren't done on computer, because this was long before computers existed, but there was a room, a faculty room, in which every student's report card was laid out, and the teacher had to go in and write every kid's grade in by hand. So that meant that my father was privy to my report card long before it was given out to me. So he came home one night when I was a freshman, first marking period freshman year, and he says, "Beth Claire, you know, you get a C+ in algebra, you're not going to college." And I was scared out of my mind because I believed him. And so I worked my tail off to bring that C+ up to a B the next marking period, and I did it. I did go down in science a little bit, but that was okay because I got the algebra grade up, and so I had a bright future ahead of me in college. A report card is something that is extremely important to a student. A write-up by a boss is extremely important to any person who works in business, and it is also extremely important for a superintendent to get proper evaluations from every member of the Board of Education who is not conflicted. By getting that annual report card, he or she learns what he or she has done correctly or what needs to be improved. When that report card is not filled out by every member of the board cannot have an appropriate discussion regarding the superintendent's progress, achievements, deficits, and I believe that that is what was a major problem with Mrs. Madukar trying to get the board together to have a discussion on the superintendent. Now, I don't know what the upshot of that is going to be based on last week's meeting as to whether or not you are going to be able to discuss this contract, whether privately or publicly, that remains to be seen. And Dr. Reagan, as a native son and a full-fledged member of the Edison community, you are beloved. You have done an outstanding job, and I personally would truly hate to see you go, and especially over contract. But, it is what it is. And, but I do also, like Mr. Dameron, want to thank you for your years of service, not just these past 3 years, but in the past. So I do want to just ask the board, especially now that you have two youngsters on the board with you, sometimes there are some members of the board whose language is inappropriate. And there are several words that I cringed when I heard or listened to last week's meeting. So I would ask that every member of the board be very careful about the language that you are using, because there are some things that are not really apropos for the public. And I also would ask that you be civil to one another and stop attacking each other. It is vile. It is absolutely vile. Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Maroney.
Board President, if I can add.
Yes, Mr. Patel.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Just for
Ms.
a
Maroney.
clarification, sorry, Ms. Marone. Have a clarification, the evaluation is not indicative to having a conversation in regards to the contract. It is apropos. So it's not indicative that we have a conversation about his contract if he's telling us to bring it up. So it's not.
Excuse me, Ms. Maroney?
Point of order, Mr. President.
Yes.
Just since I don't know what's about to come from other comments from the public or the board, the advice I've given the board, and I don't think we crossed the line quite yet, but there is nothing on tonight's agenda regarding our current superintendent. Our superintendent has not been given a rice notice. There was a motion last week to have a discussion regarding the superintendent. That motion was defeated. There should be no public discussion by this board regarding the superintendent's contractual relationship with us, his evaluation process, or anything else regarding the interrelationship between him and the board. The public can say what they will. Board members should not be discussing that in public.
I just wanted to clarify that is not indicative to a conversation. Thank you.
And Board President,
Ms.
may I add
Peng.
something? Yes, I just want to clarify one thing. Has nothing to do with the contract, but in year 2020, as far as I know, there is no evaluation done for Dr. Brigham and his contract. This
Point
is
of
just
order,
history.
Mr. Rubin.
We should not be discussing what evaluations Dr. Brigham
No, I'm
did
not
or didn't-
discussing the evaluation. I'm just
If I can
stating
finish
the
what I was
history,
saying. If
which
point of order
he's-
takes precedence. There should be no discussion of what evaluations Dr. Brigham did or didn't get, why they were or were not given.
Okay, can I
Not
ask a
appropriate for
question? Is
public
that
discussion.
evaluation happened? But we are talking about, I'm just stating that the evaluation didn't happen, still the contract
Ms.
was
Peng, I think the
discussed.
lawyers are trying to advise us to protect us.
The point
I'm
was
just
based.
stating the history, which is has nothing to do with what's happening now, right?
Yeah, just need the public to know that there's a clarification in regards to there's not a requirement for us to have an evaluation prior to a discussion. That's all.
I don't want the public to get misinformed about this procedure, that's all.
Mr. Minesh.
Good evening. Minesh Patel, 240 Wellman Ave. Congrats to both new leaders. I hope you're going to find yourself in a good spot once in a while. But do your job good. Mohin has supported you, so now give him all the outline you need in your school. Tell your friend Vivian to do too. And when you need help, I'm here to yell and scream. You're going to need a lot of money in your schools. Last 10 years, been neglected. Make a list with all your principals, assistant principals, teachers, and bring it to the board members' attention. That's your job, my dear. And good luck to you. Also bring the best of the music and the athletic team. Now back to, I knew Doug was going to run away because you have to give me more minutes. Dr. Brigham, one thing I overheard for a few minutes about insurance, and you were saying it's your fault. I said it's not your fault, it's board's fault, because board should have stopped you when there was bid went out, or they should have looked at it, because in the last 6 meetings I'm looking one after another, they've always said that it's approved by you and no bids were given and the contract's given out. This needs to stop. Board needs to have bids for everything that we do going forward, because you are spending my money, their money, people sitting home, their money. Everyone work hard just like you. Every penny you spend has to be collected by the township, given to you to spend, and that has to be accounted for. You cannot just do it because you don't have time, let's not take a bid and send it out. I'm in corporate America too. I work for NGO. Every penny or donation we get, we make sure it's used for right thing. The bottom line is, if you take 4 bids, then you sit with 6 people, and decide which is a better bid. It doesn't have to be the lowest, it doesn't have to be the highest, but what's better for the Edison Township, the parents and the kids. Because end of the day, all of you are elected or given a salary through their taxes. Now let's get back to transportation. Madam, you told us that it was like 89 tickets. That's too many tickets for our town. I was looking at other towns, and their tickets are a lot lower. I understand we are overpopulated, okay, we have problems, but we had 2 years to correct it. And we still have issues, like what earlier someone said, bus broke and kid had to walk half a mile or more alone. I also found out hockey team. If we had a $23 extra per household that was saved this year, according to the board, why can't we give money to the hockey team? Why does a parent have to pay for it? Do you think those parents don't pay enough taxes? Then we should get them up here and tell them to pay more, but not pay it through the dues. If we have such a huge, you go to the nearest town and ask them, their hockey team is paid by the Board of Ed. Why can't we do it? We brag about Edison being number one. I just found out the Metuchen won the number, and we're not even on the list of Middlesex County. Am I right, Dr. Brigham? Because I saw that somebody sent me from Metuchen the list. Our district must hire a superintendent if he has already given you the notice. It's a huge one. We need to do the transition. We can't be dickering on can we keep him, can we do this, can we do that. If you need it, you have enough help sitting back there who are smart and they were well qualified. I'm sure one of them will pick up, I won't say her name, but she'll get mad at me, so I won't say it. But she used to be my principal at J.P. Stevens for 10 years, and I dealt with her, and I know she could take care of any problem you got on this floor. The other thing is, sometimes we announce one school, we don't announce other school problems. Let's try to do it together. Let's not play South and North. Every time when I see it, somebody says, oh, I'm working for South. I work for North. It's Edison Township, my friend. All schools are equal. Just like we are all equal in this country, all schools should be treated equally. Okay, not Edison, not J.P. Stevens, they both are my school. So when you say that next time, you're gonna see me furiously. Thank you very much. I got 31 minutes for Doug.
30 seconds, Mr. Manesh. Okay. Miss in the black sweater, yes. Miss Joyce, you're up next. And then Miss Conway. Oh, Miss Badovsky, I'm sorry.
Hi, Tina Lapalosa, 66 Ellen Street. I spoke last week, so I just wanted to say a few things. I did last week say that Mr. Beryl Patel and Ms. Shivy voted for the Metuchen food vendor, and then Mr. Beryl Patel corrected me, and I appreciate that he spoke out and said that I was incorrect, and if I was, thank you for pointing that out. I do want to say that Shivy did not disagree with my comment, therefore confirming she did vote for someone that would not benefit the schools. Mr. Beryl Patel, I would also like to say I am unsure how being a board member, that when the meeting occurred last Thursday, you acted like you didn't understand or know what the motion was about. The attorney clearly explained it. We are all lay people and not on the board, and we all understood that it was to discuss and or potentially not discuss the contract of Dr. Bragan. And because you kept saying things such as you don't understand this or that, perhaps you voted no, not to discuss it incorrectly. So how can we trust the decisions you make or votes you cannot understand or basic motion to discuss something or not? Also, regarding Dr. Haydock, and I apologize because this is not anything directed towards you as a person, but he was appointed to our board, to our Edison Township Board. He's not a member of Edison. He wasn't voted in by the public. He was appointed because the board, for lack of a better term, couldn't get things together, so an outside person had to be appointed to the board. That I feel like the board needs to do a better position. I also want to say that the non-bullying campaign is prevalent in our schools. And funny, today, there's a 30-page policy on bullying. What does bullying mean? Harassment, intimidation, or bullying means any gesture, any written, verbal, or physical act. This is from your own policy. If reasonably perceived as being motivated by several things taking place on our school property, substantially disrupts or interferes with the orderly operation of the schools. So I was going to discuss this anyway, and then you added this 30-page discussion to me. So I am sad to say that the Board of Education does not follow the same policy. Bullying means facing someone and then just forcing someone to do what you want them to do. That's what it means. That's what your own policy says. The bullying campaign is all about discussing concerns, being able to come to a verbal resolution, a debate, a discussion. By not allowing Dr. Bragan to speak or by not agreeing to listen to him, this is bullying. And hence, now we have all received a letter saying he may move on. I think that you all should still reconsider this. I cannot blame him, as you all have your family and their interests at the forefront, but everyone should be allowed to speak, and everyone should be allowed to be heard. By not agreeing to speaking to him or allowing him to be heard, that is bullying. So yes, you were successful in your bullying tactics, which is not a good role model for the students. I also want to say, yes, it's an election year, and I would like to know how you can justify that you will speak or listen to the public when you cannot even speak or listen to your own colleague, who has proven to be an asset at the position he holds as superintendent. Also, there was a concern that Dr. Bragan had family members that worked in the district. And now we also know, or I didn't know until today, that the president also has family members working in the district. So how can it be a conflict of interest? I have reportedly said communities should be taking care of their own community. Dr. Bragan is a community guy. He should be taken care of by us, you all, the board, who should be worried about our community. Also, if the shot at Mr. Ross was serious, that really upsets me because there is no principal that is more involved in anyone with his students, with the families, etc. So that was a disrespectful and not a good shot. I hope it was just made in fun, but it's not appreciated. Again, the board needs to follow their own 30-page policy on bullying. Please read it and then come to a new decision.
Thank you. There was a lot of, this is public comment, and obviously we respect the public's right to share their opinion. I'll just correct you on one fact. You just mentioned Dr. Haydock is not a member of Edison. I'm not sure what that means, but he is a resident of Edison. So I just wanted to make sure nobody's confused by that. I don't want to go through his resume. He's a doctor in educational policy from Seton Hall and everything. But certainly the factual information that he's a resident of Edison is very important to clarify. Thank you. Ms. Madiger, yes.
So I just want to clarify that there never has been a Metuchen food vendor on the agenda to vote. So I did not clarify because there's never been a food vendor from Metuchen, so I don't know where that came from.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Madiger.
One
Ms.
more
Joyce.
thing, Board President, before it becomes
Mr.
an
Patel.
issue outside, a shot at Dr. Ross. I don't know which context you're talking about, But if during my comments I did mention Dr. Ross and Mr. Ross, when we were just jokingly talking to this wonderful addition of the students who have joined us, it's a proud moment for Edison. So it's a very nice way, a wonderful way, a gesture with our friendly behavior with Mr. Ross all the time, that we picked on Mr. Ross. But we respect Mr. Ross tremendously. He is a great asset to these public schools, and he has been doing for years for the children of Edison High School a tremendous service, and we salute him for his role as a principal of Edison High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Joyce.
Good evening. A quick shout out about the bullying. I watched Chibi Magador get bullied a lot last week, so I seen the bullying in action. And I just like to tell everybody that's on the board, and I heard people say, well, we did this and we did that. Guess what? All the community sees everybody as one. So the things you might have did 3 years ago or things you might have done, guess what? They give everybody the credit. I can sit behind and wait, a couple of years go by, but now we have 2 female firefighters. You may not be on the council now, but everybody makes the sausage. So at certain times, you get accolades for stuff you didn't do, just like other people do. And I want to commend the young ladies on the board, because you made me think of, I had a big anniversary this weekend at our reunion. And at that time, I'll tell you a couple of hints what we fought for. We fought for women just to be able to wear pants in school. Incredible, right? And I'll let you know we also fought for, which is a horrible thing, we fought for smoking lounges in school. Ew, I don't know what we were thinking, all right? And we had Sadie Hawkins dances where the females got to ask their men, where could they go? So that was kind of very incredible. And which was real corny, if you've seen somebody, I don't know if you guys still remember what it is with a film. Like they would come in the room with a film and everybody say, yay, we're watching film strips today at all. So, and I want to acknowledge the Hispanic Heritage Month. And I think because of this being a global economy and this being a global world, we do disjustice to our children when we don't enlighten them on all the things that happen around the world, all right? Because we got Hispanic Heritage Month. I know we got Diwali coming up. And just like someone said, your council meetings, you're doing this because you're making them double because of this and that. Had they had some knowledge of the Jewish holidays, they wouldn't be writing misinformation. People write misinformation and they and then they put it forth on a whole lot of things only because they don't know background. So it's easy to misinform people. But I want you to know that a lot of us that you think are being misinformed, we're much brighter than people give us credit for at all. And I still remember overcrowding. I think because, matter of fact, my graduating class was a great big class. And everybody know we seen Mr. Richardson this weekend. Yeah, so he was around, he was the guidance counselor, then he went up to vice principal, then he became principal. But he still looks good. He has black hair. His hair is not the color of mine. I don't know how he keeps it like that, and he's like 87 years old, but he keeps it really nice. And then I was thinking about when they were talking about doing projects together, and then one of my things came back up again, and it had jazz kids in Somerset, and it had the students playing the jazz, and then they had the other jazz group coming on. And I also, my heart goes out to Brian Rivera, because as tomorrow will be my dad's birthday, and it's so important. And I know that you're out of it for a while, especially when you lose somebody very, very close to you. And people say, well, they don't seem like their self tonight, So, as my condolences goes out to him. And also, like they said, I always said we should have this great big calendar up on the wall, and we should put in each thing that's happening everywhere, so everyone in Edison can be able can participate. Because a lot of times people say, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on at the school. I don't know what's going on at council. I don't know what's going on this weekend. Well, anyway, on this weekend, on Saturday, on the 24th, they have a great big fall festival going on. So other than that, I think that adding the students up here will make people act better and behave better, you know, because you don't want kids to see you acting like kids like that at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Joyce. Ms. Podofsky.
Carol Podofsky, 39 Jonathan Drive. I have two things. First, thank you for bringing back our high school liaisons. They really make a positive difference on our board. They bring us lots of ideas, and they also take back to their classmates ideas of what happens and tell them more about what happens and show them how they can watch on television, and even if they're not here. And I know that when we first had it, one of the positives was my daughter was able to vote in her first election after she was away at college, because you couldn't get a mail-in ballot until you had once signed in person. But because she registered to vote as early as you could, and she voted as early as she could, when she was off in Pennsylvania at college and it was time to vote, she had her mail-in ballot. So little things that connect the students to the adult world and the adults to the student world can really help. And the other huge thank you is to thank you for reinstating full-day kindergarten in our schools. I was privileged and elated to see it the first time around, to be part of it. And I was devastated, along with all the teachers, the parents, and the children, and the younger siblings who thought they were going to be doing it the next year when it was discontinued. As thrilled as I am tonight about getting full-day kindergarten back in our schools, I worry about that, making sure we keep it going. And years ago, when Dr. Kresge was our superintendent, I used to always tell him about our little children. And apparently, I always said it that way so that he would say it that way to me also. But they're little children. They don't know who you are. They think you're a stranger telling them to go in a different door at the school. They don't know who you are. They know who I am because they see me every day. So the little children in our full-day kindergarten get used to being part of the big kid school and being one of the big kids. And they become a little more of a big kid. And it was tragic to watch that fall apart. So I just want to say, as a teacher, I'm a retired teacher, but I have taught preschool and every grade in the public schools and college. And I've seen how each step builds on the steps before. And by giving us back full-day kindergarten, which is fully planned out and state-of-the-art, and it's not always materials, it's the training and the ideas, and we've got the people here who know how to put all that together. Every step builds on the previous ones, and you can't pull that foundation out and expect them to continue to move forward. So when we commit to putting this foundation in, it's so wonderful, and actually maybe my grandson will get to go here, except he doesn't live here, but it's a nice thought. But thank you for those two things. They mean so much. At the high end of our grades and at the low end of our grades, they'll both make a difference.
Thank you, Ms. Podofsky. Mr. Yash, and Ms. Conway after.
Good evening, everyone. Yash Pandya, 20 Arbor Circle.
I just want to welcome our student representatives again. I think I'm the 100th person saying this, but welcome again. I wanted to say it specifically because, I'm really jealous of you guys. Back when I was a student, we didn't really have this, so it's nice to see that students are here, and I'm sure you guys are going to take full advantage of this to bring all the positivity back to your students, teachers, and parents. So good luck and congratulations. And I want to say congratulations and best of luck to Dr. Bragan as well for moving on, and wish him all the best in his future endeavors. Dr. Bragan, you've done a lot for us, through a historically difficult time of COVID-19. You've brought Edison Township school system from ground zero back up when we were shut down during COVID, and it's helped all of our students, special needs students, and parents and teachers all over. So thank you and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
For the board, I just want to share one point. I was here 2 years ago at Edison High, and we were having a very similar conversation with Dr. Bragan. And, it was, though there were split differences and split of opinions, I liked that the board was unified in discussing with each other everything that was going on, whether to extend it, not extend it, whatever the discussion was amongst the board. But one thing that upsetted me this year was that the board didn't even discuss what was to be discussed. And, at the end of the day, my only hope and wish is that you guys always remember that an important topic like that of a superintendent should be discussed internally, externally. That's to the discretion of you board members, but it should be discussed because it's very important to our students and our larger Edison community. So I just hope and wish for that moving forward. And again, best of luck to our student representatives. Dr. Bragan, best of luck to you. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Ms. Conway.
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. I'm going to talk fast because I have a whole bunch of things that I want to talk about. Two things that I'm really happy about is there are plants in front of Woodrow Wilson Middle School in those big, ugly concrete planters. It's lovely, and I thank Mr. Kolobas. He said they're going to get bigger. I would have liked 3, but 2 looks very nice and it's colorful. The second thing is I just went into the bathroom, and you almost need sunglasses on how clean and shiny the bathroom is. So I thank them for that also. About the health insurance. We keep talking about the health insurance, but I don't hear a minus for the employee contribution. So even though we paid $40.6 million, we need to also include that the district didn't pay all of the $40.6 million, if I'm correct, that a certain amount was paid by the employee contributions. So that would lower the cost even more. And I believe if you lower it by that much, it really brings us back a number of years as to what the contributions were for health insurance. I am thankful to see the reps, and I'm very proud to say that the young lady from Edison High was in the classroom right across from me when I taught at Edison High, and the young lady from J.P. Stevens was in the next classroom from me when I taught at Menlo Park School. So congratulations, and keep up the good work. The next thing that's fabulous, we talked about J.P. Stevens Choir and the accolades. Well, I also got a notice that they will be performing for the locals on February 15th at St. Matthew's. Now, I went last year and saw them perform, and I was in awe of how wonderful they performed. So anybody that's listening, if I'm correct with that date, I would put it in your calendar to also get to see them before they perform nationally. The next thing is it's been brought up a couple of times, and I've noticed it on the news also, the talk about the start time for the high schools, about moving the time a little later so that the students can sleep a little later. And I just wanted to put it in the back of your mind that this may be something that Edison might consider in the future. And if I've heard speakers on it, Mohan, you were there virtually, but it may be something we need to consider, and I think it can be handled to the students' advantage. The next thing is somebody asked me to ask this question, and that was the number of days the children are allowed to be absent before there is any problem with too many absences. So I believe it's on the website, and I just wanted to confirm that to be true. I know at the early elementary, I don't think it's as exact as it is when it gets to the upper grades, but if that could be reiterated to the parents so they're aware, because I know it's sometimes people go away, and if they live, their families are far away, they are away longer, but that could be to the detriment of the students. Or illness, if it's a prolonged illness, rather than just be absent, reach out to the district for help for the children that are out for a longer period of time. When we talk about the busing, I know I've had a few phone calls about busing, and I just wanted to know, we have control or more control over the buses that are Edison School District. But when you contract it out, how quickly are these contractors responding to our needs is something I think the parents would like to hear. I know once you get to a third party, it's really hard. That's why keeping things in-house and extending that was a great move forward, and I hope that really continues. And I'm not going to stop. The last thing is Committee of the Whole. We talked about all the things that are going to be happening, are happening, and will be happening with the plan. I believe we were supposed to have a meeting last month, but it got canceled because of your finance meeting. When will the next one? Because I think that's a valuable tool. You know, Carol and I are there to listen, but people do truly watch it. Thank you to Patrick, and hopefully he took care of the closed caption. So this way, we're educating our district as to what's going on a regular basis. We're up to this. Next is this. Next is that. So this way, we let them know on an ongoing basis.
Thank you, Ms. Conway. I agree with you. The Committee of the Whole concept is really important. It keeps everyone informed. You could see when things are happening. I think after tomorrow's meeting with the financial advisor and the DCO Energy Company, we might have some news as to when the next one will be scheduled. Dr. Bragan, there's some questions there if you want to answer any of them.
Yeah, quite a few actually. I'll do the best I can. Oh, excuse me. The health benefits, that's a great point, Mrs. Conway, that the employees contribute, I think last year was approximately 8.6 million, so that's a little less than 25% of the cost, you know, and depending on how much they earn and what tier they're in, on what the percentage is that they pay towards the health benefits. So that is something that we did factor into that $40.6 million was their contribution as well as part of that funding. So that's always in there, and we do want to work hard. Last year we kept the premium equivalents exactly the same. This year they went up slightly, but the goal is to keep that lower so the employee contribution stays low while still providing the same service. The attendance policy is different at different grade levels. Obviously, the high school, if you miss so many classes, you lose credit for the class, so on and so forth. Individual classes, not just for the absences, for the days. I would encourage anyone who has a question to speak to their building principal, the teacher first, building principal. It should be on all the websites. It should be in the code of conduct, but the attendance policy is listed on the website too for each of the districts. The start times is an interesting thing, and I think it is something that we should look at. The research is clear that our adolescents tend to stay up late and sleep late, and yet they're the ones that we want to come into school the earliest, right? Especially if you're studying for your AP classes and all that, and you're up till 1, 2 in the morning, you got to get ready for school at 5. It's not healthy. So that's something we would definitely support. What I've always heard over time was there's some problems with after-school activities and athletics, and hopefully we can get together as a county, and if we all did it and change those times, I think it'd be really beneficial. And the private vendors is always an issue, as you were, a part of the conversations when we started moving forward to buy the buses, so we take more ownership, and then there are buses, and we can control that. Anytime you go to a third party, we're kind of at their mercy, and yet there is still accountability, but at the end of the day, if they're new to the route, and they're late, and they're not acclimated as quickly as they should be, it's a problem. And we're working on it. They're usually very responsive when we call and try to fix things, and myself and Dr. Aldarelli met with a few, with our transportation supervisors. We met a few vendors last week to discuss concerns and, try to fix things moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bragan. Miss here, right here. And Miss Orchid, you're next. Sorry. If you could just move the microphone towards you.
Hello, my name is Nisha Banginwar. I'm from 120 Moretti Lane. Thank you, Dr. Bragan, for all of your services, and we wish good luck. You did a lot for all of us, parents and everyone, and it is very sad that you are leaving. It's your decision, we know that. Moving forward, I hope our board will work and discuss together for the security, stability, and prosperity of our students, and also are working diligently to fill the largest shoes of Dr. Bragan. Another thing, I really congratulate to student representative from Edison High School, Ms. Sarina Ahmed, and from JP Stephen, Vivian Lee. It's really good to see both of you on a new board member. It takes a lot of courage, and I think you are really did so good. I'm very happy to hear that whatever is said, your experience and everything. Another thing about Mr. Rivera, we are very sorry for your loss. I understand that when we came from India, and it happened that I went to meet my dad when he was not feeling well, and when I came back, next day I got the news that he's no more, and I couldn't go back to see him again. So I understand, and I pray to God that He will give the strength. And I'm still feeling that the same moment here by seeing you. Another thing, I have one request from the one parents. Our concerns are for the project PCS program for the special need kids. The majority of this curriculum is a community-based learning and work-based learning to increase social skill and train the kids to function in society and be productive society. The program used to have at least 7 to 8 times per month, and now those have been reduced to 2. And that also is like it's inside the school. They are not going out. Everything is normal, but still they didn't get it what they deserve it. They need off-site location to work so they can get the experience and learn the skill to function in the job and in the community. I really want to know that when it will get the normal, is there any decisions or like we are going to decide that when they will get again that program will come normally, and what's the reason that they are only getting for 2 times now?
Okay,
That's all.
Do you have any
That's
other
all.
questions?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You could have a seat. You have 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. Dr. Bragan, do you have an answer?
We'll look into it. I can't speak specifics about it, but we'll look into it and see why that is, why it was reduced.
Ms. Orchid, and then Ms. Chinta. Sorry.
Thank you. Maria Orchid, 83 Jefferson. I do have a couple of questions. First is, why is there no parents included in the school improvement panel? Does the parent receive a copy of the intervention and referral service report? I think the T-shirts should also be approved by the principals. On a side note, beautiful Edison will be doing a cleanup on Friday. That's the Silver Lake area, and that's from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I do know that it's a school day, but if there's any adults that are available, we could use your help. Councilman Joy Ship Freeman also mentioned the Fall Family Spectacular on Amboy Avenue on Saturday. We'd love to see everyone in our community. It's always a great event. That's from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. You don't have to stay all day. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Happy Rosh Hashanah. The Open Space Advisory Committee is looking into a bike lane. They will be doing a bike run on Saturday, October 2nd, Kilmore Road area. That'd be like a one-time to show how it can improve the traffic in our area. And we also look for more bike racks in our local schools. Welcome to the meeting to the students' representatives. We always look forward to your input. Just what is the update to our overcrowding issue? Is there an update for our crossing guards and the before and after care? Of course, light on the Boulevard of Eagles. I'm always pushing for that. JROTC in Edison High. I had a wonderful conversation with a student who is in J.P. Stevens for their civilian. High does not have a leadership program. And last, I promise, thank you, Dr. Bragan, for all your wonderful expertise.
Thank you, Ms. Orkin. Dr. Bragan, would you like to answer any of those questions?
Yeah, I'll answer a few. The SCIP, the School Improvement Panel, the members are delineated by the New Jersey Department of Ed Code, and it doesn't currently include a parent. You know, we could lobby them and see if that's a wise choice to do that. The INRS committee, the reports at the end of the year are typically not shared with the parent community either. It's individualized information related to students. Obviously, if there's a concern about an individual child, that parent should contact the principal or the teacher and get, you know, whatever concerns they may have addressed. Updates on the overcrowding, I think Mr. Schneider mentioned it. We are still moving forward, and we will be scheduling a CAL meeting pretty soon, committee of the whole update. But the projects are moving forward. We're working to get DOE approval. That's the next step before we can go out to bid on the 5 projects that we currently have ready, you know, ready to go on our end. I forgot the rest. The National Guard, I'm using the wrong term, the ROTC. Yeah, I know we're working on that, but really it's at the military's level now. They have to give us permission to do that, and you know, it's obviously their programs that we house in the school and we work cooperatively. I'll follow up, but we have spoken to them before about that, and my understanding is where we left off, they have to make that decision where they're willing to do it for us at Edison High School.
Thank you, Dr. Bragan. Ms. Chinta.
Good evening, Dr. Bragan and board members. Padmaja Chinta from Edison. I was actually not planning on speaking today, but just sitting here watching the deliberations of the first hour or so made me want to come and share my thought. I have come to quite a few meetings in the past few years, but I must say this is the first time I actually saw a constructive dialogue between the board members on a resolution that did not end in a deadlock, but actually a better outcome. So I commend you all for that. Maybe it's because we have the student reps here, but whatever be the driver of this change, it's a good change. As a parent, that's what I want to see. I want to see my board work together. And if that cannot happen, at least be respectful when dealing with your colleagues. So again, it's a welcome change and a change I wish to see more in each meeting. And Dr. Bragan, it seems you have made a decision. I may not have agreed with every decision you made or your methodology, but I will say this. In every meeting I have participated, in every deliberation I had with you, you always were very respectful and always conducted yourself very professionally. And that's one quality that I truly appreciate, and I wish the board will model itself on. Wish you the very best in your next role, wherever that may be, whatever that may be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Campione.
Susan Campione, 8 Schiffer Court. Just a follow-up to a question that was raised before regarding attendance. Now that we have semester classes in the middle schools, is there any type of policy if students are absent for a certain amount of time during the semester? I know in the high school there's credit completion, and they need, for college and all a certain number of credits, but for scheduling purposes and all, do they just not get credit for the class if they have to travel for a certain amount of time? And how will that look when they come back? Do they just not take that semester for that class, or, I don't know, but just for some clarification. And, something to think about also going forward, like academics with math. Should we do policies where they're retested? Because, if they miss a month and a half, a lot of people have to travel for emergencies, or there are visa issues now where people are going back, getting stuck there for months at a time in India, and I'm not sure if there's other places that are now changed the rules that they have to go back home to do it. So we already have students who are starting to transfer out because of this, beyond their control, but they do miss a big portion and then come back to the classroom. So some teachers are asking, how do they grade them? And then, for the counselors, where do they schedule them, especially with the semester classes? And, if they miss a portion of math, because that's cumulative and moving on, what happens? Thank you.
Thank you.
Tough questions, Mrs. Campione. We'll have to look into all that. I don't have those off the top of my head, and I'm not going to try to make one up. So we'll talk with our secondary team, put something together, and I'm sure they may have already worked on that, and just I may not have the full knowledge of it.
Any other first-time public comments? Would anyone that has time remaining on their first part like to speak again? Ms. Joyce, I see your hand. 1 minute and 13 seconds.
I just wanted to remind people that on this Sunday at Roosevelt Park, they have, the YMCA has a walkathon for cancer survivors. And if you haven't registered yet, you can still have the opportunity to come early on Sunday morning and register and walk to help our cancer survivors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Do I have a motion to end public comment?
Motion.
Mr. Biro Patel, motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. It looks like that's it. A motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion. Second. Mr. Patel. Mr. Patel, we're adjourned. Thank you.